So that tomorrow I know it's there and I can tackle it. I don't need to stay awake stressing about it. It's there, it's done, it's out of the way. Let's go. Okay. Training, really good shut off for the stress response. There's a thing around stress theory about you not being the guy that gets ulcers, you're the guys that give them. Okay. So there's kind of 2 or 3 ways to shut it off. You shut it off by hitting someone. Genuinely, they've studied this, and hitting something or someone will launch your stress response. Okay, we live in a society where that's frowned upon, so don't do it. But it will legitimately shut your stress response down. Shouting at someone will do it. So will hard, intense physical activity. So if you're stressed, one of the best things you can do is get out and train. Go out for a walk, get out and move, do whatever, do something, okay? Don't just sit around stewing and brewing. That's pretty much all I want to talk about. Has anyone got any questions or anything right now I haven't covered, or cues on anything other than nutrition? Oh, go Danny.
Yeah, you talked about there, one of your training cycles you were focusing on deadlifting next year. Is when the goal of that is to improve, say, deadlift, obviously then the other lifts, do you just do enough accessory work that you're just maintaining them, and then all the rest of your energy is going towards deadlift, or is it improve them as well if you can? Does that make sense?
Ideally number 2, but realistically number 1.
Yeah, so it's just maintenance for, and how would you set up, say, the accessory stuff to do that?
Okay.
Strong bench and them.
Cool. Yeah, so the question basically, guys, is can you get everything better all the time at the same time? And the answer is no. Okay, if you're quite new to the training, it's quite easy to improve all the aspects of it. The longer you're at it, the more you need to pick one thing and focus on it for various points in your cycle. You would have seen this probably in your own training that some lifts go up really fast and easy, others you've got to find straight for. Okay, that's the nature of the game. For me, like, I know personally my weakest lift, and the thing that I'm embarrassed about is my deadlift. Like, I legitimately, I'm too ashamed to do a powerlifting competition anytime soon because I know my deadlift, relatively speaking to my other lifts and to other competitors, will be embarrassingly bad. So I've got to spend a lot of time focusing on that. My squat's already like probably as good or ahead of anyone else in the country. My bench is thereabouts. So for me now, my focus is on just picking this one weak thing I suck at and making it better. And that's what you guys should be thinking about as well. What's my biggest issue? Is it going to bed on time? Right, if it is, tackle that. Is it I always snack at this time and I always eat shit? Okay, address that. Pick something you know that can mitigate that and focus on it. When you look at the research into behavioural change, what you'll see is that if you pick one thing, one actionable item, and stick to it for 2 weeks, you have an 80% chance of success. If you pick more than one thing and try to stick to it for 2 weeks, you have an 80% chance of failure. So when you try to do 2 things instead of 1, you're like 4 times likely to fail. So if you're trying to change shit in your life, pick one thing, focus on that. Once you've got that locked down and it's easy, move to the next one, move to the next one, move to the next one. To answer your question about accessory work, Danny, I know at any point in my training cycle I'm 4 weeks, 5 weeks away from a pure squat, so I don't need to focus too hard on it. I'll just hold lots of 70, 80%. Bench press, I'll probably push a little bit more because I'll only be deadlifting hard once or twice a week, so I'll have a lot of recuperative capacity. So if I'm not trying to recover from the squats, I'll have a lot more kick my bench press despite training my deadlift hard. Okay. Any more, guys?
When's it appropriate to push on, like to increase the workload?
When you feel like you're adequately recovering.
Recovering enough.
Yeah. So like, if you look at the Bulgarian model, like they got their lads training 6 times a day, 6 times a week. Like they got them up to 36 sessions a week. Maybe between 20 and 36 sessions a week. The guys started training, they were like 8, 10 years old. They were only hitting that level at like 20. So like they would spend 3 or 4 months before adding in anything. Like they'd add in 1 or 2 sessions a week every 6 months. And then over time they got to the point where they're doing fucking balloons. Every, like, let's say as a general rule, after 3 to 6 months of training, 3 to 4 times a week, assuming you're eating properly, sleeping properly, and have a decently low stress lifestyle, you can probably add in another session once you eat to support it. Okay. The other thing, guys, just on that as well is if you're training 3 times a week and you start training 5 times a week to diet, and then also take 1,000 calories out of your nutrition, you you've added in movement, you've taken away fuel. That's not really a sustainable thing. You're going to break down sooner or later, or your body's going to stop progressing. Okay, let's get that. You guys good? Yeah. Good.
No, I don't think
Okay, come on.
Right, so where I'll start, it's not going to be too formal. I think the biggest benefit is probably going to be just through Q&A, because it can kind of drill down into what's going to be specific to you guys. James did ask me to touch on a few things, so I'll run through them. So the first thing is basically my overall kind of philosophy. Then I'll do a small bit about dietary fats, and then we might look at something like the calorie condition. So in terms of my, I suppose, philosophy on this whole thing is really, when we peel it back, nutrition isn't just about nutrition for its own sake, per se. So by that I mean, we don't eat a certain way just to say that we're eating healthy. It's the things that eating that way will allow us to do. So, for example, if we want to be able to train and recover properly, our nutrition cycles, and then if we want to be able to go and spend more time with people that we care about, we want to make sure that we're not getting sick and falling ill. So it's really what nutrition allows us to do, is that what we're chasing, rather than how we eat per se. So it comes back to this whole thing of like health. When we look at something like, say, the health and fitness industry, like traditionally it's kind of like health, look after what you eat. The fitness part, go and move more. So this eat less or eat better foods and move more. Whereas really when we take this idea of health, it's a much broader sense, or a broader term. And really, like I said, what we actually put in our mouth is such a small part of that. It's the other things it allows us to do. It allows us to be happier in ourselves. It allows us to reduce the stress we put on our body. It allows us to go and train and enjoy life. So it's the first thing I do is always look at, like, what is the broader sense someone is coming to do. So if they come to me and say, right, we want to lose X amount of weight. And like that's always the goal. People say, it's like, okay, my goal is in this amount of time, can you get me to lose, let's say 10 pounds, 5 kilos, whatever. And really that's not the goal at all. It's, okay, what does that allow me to do? Well, if I have a wedding coming up, I was like, okay, so why do you want to be in shape for that? Well, we can go to this person or that person here. So it's really something else in their life that's making the difference, right? The real thing that they want is the confidence in front of maybe an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend or whatever. It's not the 5 kilos that really matters. So it's kind of drilling down to that, and once you have that on someone, you have the leverage, you have the hook then. And it's not about you going into other people, it's about yourself. And that was the biggest thing for me over time, like, why do I want to eat a certain way? Like, what is the real reason behind it? And like, even if we take the example, we'll take James as a good example, just because I know him more than you guys. And just looking from the outside, if we look, okay, let's look at 3 things that might be important to James, right? 1 is obviously running this place, right? 2 is going to be spending time with his girlfriend, and 3 might be competing in powerlifting. Say that's fair?
Except for number 2.
There you go. We'll say it just for the confidence. So then that's where the nutrition comes in. That's why he eats a certain way. He needs to eat enough food and enough clean food to recover from those training sessions, so he can perform better powerlifting wise. If he's eating better, then he's in a healthier state. He's not getting sick. He's able to go out at the weekends and go off on trips with Sarah. And then his business, obviously, especially running a gym, he has to look the part, which he's getting there. But see, everything ties back. So there are his reasons why he does it. It's not for nutrition's sake. So I think for everyone, it's always a useful question to ask: what do you really want, and what's going to make you happy? And then link it back to nutrition, and then you never kind of seem to break from there. So just while we're already on the tangent after the first minute, but in terms, James already mentioned kind of sleep, and that's the first thing I always address with someone before we ever look at the nutrition. And like I said already, this idea of health, like it goes, what you actually put into your mouth is such a small part of that. Okay. In terms of sleep, if someone's not getting, like James said, at least 8 hours, probably 8 to 10 hours, you have to be in a completely pitch dark room, away from all those artificial light for maybe an hour beforehand, try and get a meal within 2 hours of that sleep, so have yourself a break where you can digest that food before you're going to sleep. All these little things just come on from one another. And we'll do something real quick. So, for example then, one thing that might need to be, I think James addressed it, if you go into the dark and light patterns, what we have is, if say we take something like cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and what we should have is a rhythm where it's high first thing in the morning, it dips out throughout the day, it's lowest then as we're going to sleep, and then to wake us up, obviously it's going to peak back up. So that's the thing that's going to wake us up. When we get to around 10 or 11 p.m, when we should be going to sleep, and this is lowest, if we force ourselves to stay awake, so we get bright lights, we're staying up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the way our body is doing that, we need to produce more cortisol to keep us awake. So we know we're getting tired, we produce more cortisol because we need to stay awake, and again, it just knocks this pattern out of whack. Another thing, just while we're on that, and I'll get to this more, we talk about hormones in a while, is with stress, so we're putting on a stressor like this, we also get a release of adrenaline. So James mentioned like our sympathetic nervous system. If we have this flood of adrenaline all the time, the same way we become, say, resistant to insulin. So you might have heard about insulin resistance. We can do the exact same with adrenaline and become resistant to that. And once we have adrenaline resistance, that can lead on to, say, insulin resistance or leptin. And I'll talk about that in a while. So all I'm really getting at is that it's that sleep not only just matters about like how tired you are the next